Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. Services took place today for the woman who was murdered in Corning last week. A beloved member of the community, Kelly Collins' life was celebrated today by friends and family at a service at Carpenter's Funeral Home in Corning. Additional services and her burial will be this Saturday in New Hampshire. Brett Hefner has been charged with second-degree murder in connection to Collins' death. The Elmira Police Department reports that 4 shootings have happened in Elmira within the past week. These shootings happened on Franklin Street, West Hudson Street, Cottage Place, and Rowe Avenue. Elmira police have reported one of the suspects was as young as 14, carrying a 9mm handgun. Additionally, a gunshot victim from one of these shootings took off from police from Arnott Ogden Medical Center. Elmira police are asking anyone with information about these incidents to call the EPD at the number on your screen. The New York State Fair has changed its stance on a new policy. Off-duty law enforcement will now be allowed to carry their weapons at the fair. This reversal comes just 24 hours after the State Agriculture and Market Department announced a policy that would not allow off-duty officers to bring their weapons to the fair. Off-duty officers may have to enter through a separate gate if they want to bring their weapons into the fairgrounds. How should you get your children prepared for back to school? Our Josh Feldberg spoke with Dr. Philip Hevner about some reminders to get your students ready.
With back-to-school dates now announced for most school districts across the Twin Tiers, it's time to get your kids physically and mentally prepared for the upcoming school year. Big Fox spoke with Dr. Philip Hevner, Guthrie's Chair of Pediatrics, about what parents can do to get their children ready for the year.
One thing that's really a good idea is to plan ahead for getting up, your morning routine. So that's what's really important to families, is getting off on the right foot. And it's not something you can do in a day or two, really. So what I do with my kids is I think about when do they have to actually get up to get ready for school, and about a week earlier, I make them get up.
Getting back into a routine is a big part of getting your kids' bodies ready for school. But what about getting them ready mentally?
Tip number 2 is just, sort of getting maybe back into the cognitive routine a little bit, maybe doing a little reading before bed, starting to, use words and devices that you're going to be using at school, as opposed to, starting fresh the first day. If things have been supplied to you, you know what you're going to be using and you have access to that. Just orientation. So orientation is important.
This year will be the 4th school year impacted by COVID. The inconsistent flow of learning has had an effect on some kids.
I think it's well understood now that the kids aren't just going to catch up, that there needs to be a process that takes into account that some of the time lost is going to be earned back over a longer period of time, not a short period of time. So making reasonable demands of our kids is I think, a sensible strategy, and that's school-wide and curriculum-wide, but it's also in the flow of our days. So our kids have to be asked to do things that they can accomplish.
As we get ready for another school year, keeping good habits in mind can be the best recipe for success. Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News, Sayre.
The Elmira Mammoth, the city's newest hockey team, released its away jersey today. The team will compete for the first time in the Federal Prospects Hockey League later this year. The team held a tryout camp earlier this week as they look to fill out the roster. Tusks up, Elmira. Good news for drivers, as gas prices have fallen below $4 a gallon. A big reason why inflation numbers appear to be easing. But critics say it's too soon to tell if inflation has peaked. Madeline Rivera has more from Washington.
For the first time since March, the average price for a gallon of gas is now below $4. The drop giving Americans some relief as they continue to struggle with high prices of food and rent.
It's very relaxing to know we don't have to pay no $4.
Now, a key inflation report shows wholesale prices are falling. Inflation at the wholesale level jumped 9.8% in July compared to a year ago. That's a slowdown from June's pace of 11.3%. It comes on the heels of Wednesday's report showing consumer prices did not change from June to July. The White House is taking a victory lap.
What they can look to is a president who has put in place an economic plan that is going to work for them as we move forward.
But with inflation still hovering near a 40-year high, critics say any optimism is premature.
We still have a strong inflation pressure, even though the White House is coming out saying there's zero inflation.
Democrats say tackling high prices is the reason why they're intent on passing their Inflation Reduction Act, a roughly $700 billion package that they say will decrease inflation by lowering health care and energy costs and bringing down the deficit. Republicans argue otherwise.
This bill is going to do the opposite of what the Democrats are advertising. It's a bad bill, and I'm going to proudly vote no on this bill.
The House is set to vote Friday on the Inflation Reduction Act. Speaker Pelosi says Democrats will pass the bill, sending it to the president's desk. In Washington, Malda Rivera, Fox News.
For the first time since the search at Mar-a-Lago, Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke publicly about the investigation. Garland said the warrant for federal agents to search the former president's house was authorized by a federal court. He also said the Department of Justice has filed a motion to unseal that warrant. Garland also defended the action and praised all DOJ officers who some lawmakers and members of the public have been criticizing since the search was conducted.
The department does not take such a decision lightly. Where possible, it is standard practice to seek less intrusive means as an alternative to a search and to narrowly scope any search that is undertaken. Let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants. Every day, they protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights.
The White House announces new measures aimed at curbing the spread of monkeypox in the U.S. Griff Jenkins has more from Washington.
The feds are looking to speed up their response as the monkeypox outbreak intensifies. The CDC says there are about 31,000 cases worldwide, almost 9,500 here in the U.S., the most of any country. That's a 27% increase in just the past 5 days, prompting the White House to issue a new rule making it easier for hard-hit areas to request vaccine doses sooner, with demand still outpacing supply in most big cities.
Prevention for monkeypox is multi-domain, and so as people are working to get vaccinated, we really want to give people options and clear guidance.
But health officials say those shots are starting to get to where they need to be. More than 670,000 have been shipped out so far, with another 400,000 coming soon. In San Francisco, 10,000 vaccine appointments were filled in just a few hours. Folks there say they're glad the feds are stepping up, but more needs to be done.
I'm just glad that we live where we do, that we can get the vaccines now, or at least many of us, hopefully more very soon.
Meanwhile, some lawmakers are calling on the FDA and CDC to focus more on treatment in addition to containment, claiming excessive red tape is leading to lapses in care for monkeypox patients.
He has to spend, this doctor, 2 hours filling out paperwork and jumping through hoops with the CDC to get permission to give these pills.
The White House says it's in the process of buying more than 5 million vaccine doses, but that will take time. In Washington, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
Stay with us. Your complete forecast and more news is straight ahead.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, the heaviest of the rainfall over the week did miss out on much of the Elmira and Corning area, but we'll continue to see that. We definitely have had some better precipitation numbers this month compared to last month. Now, across the area, as we're only about 10 days into the month, we are seeing that from Binghamton up to Buffalo, as well as Syracuse, is just around that ½ an inch to about 3/4 of an inch. Few locations isolated at times off to the south of us, upwards of an inch, as that's where a lot of the heaviest rain has been concentrated, is down from even the Ohio Valley into Washington, D.C., where there was that significant flooding that occurred through the overnight. Now, noting that we have these conditions, we are still under moderate to abnormally dry conditions, or moderate drought conditions to abnormally dry conditions across the Elmira Corning area, up through the Finger Lakes, and then off towards Buffalo. There was some improvements in those moderate drought conditions, working in at least some rainfall, but to totally wipe out this drought condition that we're seeing here across southern and western portions of New York, we would need some significant rainfall. We're not going to have that here in the near future, that is. Now, we did see a weak frontal system pass today. Didn't see much for precipitation, maybe a sprinkle or two, but just some uptick in the cloud cover early in the day, and then we cleared out those skies. And under those clear skies through the overnight, note that those temperatures are going to fall. It is going to be a little bit of a cool morning to start off a summer day, as we'll see lows drop down to 54 in Elmira, Corning just around 52 degrees, those Finger Lakes into those lower 50s as well, as typically this time of the year we are into those upper 50s. Now, under clear, calm, and cool skies, also note there may be some of that patchy fog, but overall, all weekend long, we're going to stay under that pattern, bringing in pleasant afternoon sunshine, but temperatures still slightly below average for this time of the year. Now, we will talk about some rainfall returning, but that's going to come next work week. So we're going to be talking about that arriving potentially as early as Sunday evening, but looking to be more likely starting on Monday. And I say more likely, I mean more just isolated chances for some showers. So nothing looking significant when it comes to rainfall accumulation to wipe out that drought. But as we stay under some of that gloomier weather, note that temperatures are going to remain cooler than average, potentially through much of next week. So as we trend into our Friday forecast, we'll wake up into those 50s, but quickly, still with that sunshine, we're able to climb into the 70s. But that's maybe where we're going to be topping off, as our average for this time of the year is still to touch those low to mid 80s, as Elmira's average is about 83 degrees. We'll be around 77, so we're looking at more than 5 degrees below average, and really those mid 70s seem to be the common number across the area. Finger Lakes may be holding into those lower 70s, but definitely straying away from those 80s. Into our Saturday forecast, we'll wake up again into those 40s, so even cooler than what we're going to be experiencing Friday morning. And then by Saturday afternoon, we'll see again, we'll return to those 70s, potentially flirting with the 80s. We'll have that into your Sunday. Sunday should be mostly sunny, just a few showers possible in the evening, and then we'll detail the continuous chance for those rain showers and cooler temperatures into next work week.
In tennis, there are 4 major championships: the Australian, the French, the US Open, and Wimbledon. And while winning one of those is a challenge, if you win all 4 in the same year, you've earned yourself a Grand Slam title. Serena Williams has 23 of them. But as one of the greatest athletes of all time prepares to retire, her decision is generating emotional reactions all around the world. Ashley Strohmeyer has a deeper look at why Williams is stepping away from professional sports.
She just is strong, she's confident, she's Serena.
When your first name alone packs that much magnitude, you know you've made it. And as Serena Williams prepares to retire from tennis, her legacy will be eternal, living on through the thousands of fans she's inspired around the world.
I told my dad, I was like, I want to be just like her.
I've been a big fan of Serena Williams ever since I was 7. I always inspired to be like her and just to follow her style, because she has such a gift and passion for tennis.
The 40-year-old powerhouse telling Vogue she's ready to step away from the sport she loves, choosing to focus on growing her family and expanding her investment capital firm, Serena Ventures.
This is a significant transition for her, and she recognizes that and was willing to go public. That's outstanding.
In doing so, Williams highlights the difficult decisions facing women in the workforce, telling Vogue in part, quote, "Believe me, I never wanted to have to choose between tennis and a family. I don't think it's fair. If I were a guy, I wouldn't be writing this because I'd be out there playing and winning while my wife was doing the physical labor of expanding our family."
We're a little bit depressed. She's an icon.
And while her decision continues generating emotional reactions to her fans, she'll always be
the greatest of all time.
Sports analysts believe Serena may officially retire sometime after competing in the U.S. Open, which kicks off August 29th in New York. Ashley Strohmeyer, Fox News.
Surging rent and eviction filings could be forcing thousands of Americans out of their homes. Gary Baumgarten has a look at the latest numbers and what's triggering this crisis.
While there's no place like home, a growing number of Americans may soon be forced out of theirs. New data from Princeton University's The Eviction Lab reveals several major cities across the nation are experiencing historically high rates of eviction filings, with June rates in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area 91% higher than that time last year. Las Vegas rates went up by 56%, in Hartford, Connecticut by 32%, and rates in Jacksonville, Florida up by 17%.
Me siento un poco nervioso.
I feel a little nervous every time I come to the mail because I don't know if there's going to be an eviction note.
Real estate professionals point to the ending of the federal moratoriums on evictions and the drying up of federal emergency rental assistance funds for causing the surge, with the Eviction Lab reporting more than 8,400 evictions across the nation last week alone.
He wants us out.
Inflation also to blame, with the overall cost of rent up by roughly 15% from last year. And while renters say the increases are unfair, landlords say it's purely business.
If someone raises their rent 10%, they're just playing catch up.
According to a recent report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, the average U.S. employee needs to make $26 an hour to afford rent for a two-bedroom residence. The federal minimum wage is only $7.25 an hour. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Still ahead, an app is helping homeowners in 48 states hire on-demand landscapers. How it works, coming up. The National Retail Federation estimates that families will spend $864 shopping for back-to-school items. Alicia Machado has more on how some organizations are stepping up to make sure that students have what they need for this upcoming school year.
It's that time of year again. Time to go back to school! With just a couple of weeks left until they head to the classroom, a whole lot of emotions for kids in Connecticut.
I'm excited to make new friends. It's going to be a little hard because we're learning new stuff that might be harder.
But parents will also feel this year a bit more on their wallets. On average, shoppers are expected to spend $168 more compared to 2019, according to the National Retail Federation. They anticipate families will spend an average of $864 in total on school items at a time when money is already tight.
Groceries are all up, gas is up, water bill, electric bill, everything.
As inflation rises, NRF says 1/3 of consumers plan to cut back on spending in other areas so they can pay for school items. But families in East Hartford are getting some help. East Hartford Public Schools hosted a back-to-school rally Wednesday with 200 backpacks to give away.
It's a relief.
All filled with school supplies.
There's a ruler, books, a journal. I feel happy so much because I got my favorite color backpack, teal.
The backpacks and school supplies provided free of charge through donations from local businesses, organizations, and community partners.
A new app is helping people in need of lawn service connect with landscaping companies. Linda Williams has more on the company and how the app works.
Allen's Landscaping. It's a traditional family business in Buckeye, but it's getting a high-tech boost from an app called YourGreenPal.com. Allen's Landscaping has found dozens of new customers through the app.
We've gotten elderly people, snowbirds. We've gotten young people that like to make it easier if their Uber Eats for lawn mowing, you know?
Based in Nashville, Gene Caballero launched the business because he thought lawn mowing on demand might have the same appeal as ride-sharing apps like Uber.
I knew that if a stranger was going to summon a stranger to take them to a restaurant or take them home, then at some point they would do the same with lawn care. And so that's kind of how the idea came about.
Here's how it works. As a vendor, Fernanda gets an alert of a job on the app for her to bid on in her area.
We give them the Google aerial view, the Google Street View, and also the square footage of the property and what the homeowner truly needs. With that information, the vendor can then give a quote to that homeowner for the services that they need done.
Us, it helps them save time also with inflation prices and gas prices going up. You know, we don't have to go to the property to give an estimate rather than already know what we're expecting and they know what they're expecting from us.
The client pays through the app once they've inspected the work and approved it. The company takes 5% of the transaction amount, and the vendor, like Allen's Landscaping, gets the rest. Now that's cutting edge. Linda Williams, Fox 10 News.
Stay with us. We'll have more right after this. We want to leave you with a smile, and we might be leaving you with a craving as well. Last summer, Lay's introduced a new snack that had people asking, is this a chip or a Dorito? Now the company is back at it again. Lay's is introducing 4 new chips, which are a mashup of other flavors. The new snacks include Lay's kettle-cooked Fritos chili cheese, Lay's Cheetos, Lay's Doritos Cool Ranch, and Lay's Wavy Funyuns Onion. The chips are available on store shelves nationwide for less than $5 for a large bag. I'm Scott Beadle. Thanks for watching.